Hello, hello, hello. Hope everything is going good. Let's get into this. I know I'm running just a little bit late, but hey, I'm here. I'm here, and I'm happy that I am here to see you all. So, I just want to ask you a quick question. Have you ever been driving? And I know that all of us have driven somewhere before where we put our destination into our GPS, and our GPS says that there's a quarter mile that is coming up, cars are flying by, we're trying to merge, we hesitate for a second, and then what happens? We miss our turn. We miss our turn 100%. And the thing is that the funny part is that a lot of us do not stop and be like, shoot, I'm a bad driver. If you have done that, hey, that's you. Put it in the chat if you have done that and thought that you were a terrible driver. But sometimes some of us, we actually just sit there and we say, I missed my turn. Like, we don't automatically think we're a terrible driver. We just miss our turn because it's a route that we've really never driven before. So why is it that when we become leaders and have one difficult conversation, we have a meeting where we can't answer all the questions, we have an email that we replay and we're like, we should have written it differently, or we have a moment that we second guess ourselves, that we suddenly convince ourselves that maybe, just maybe, I shouldn't be in this position. Does that sound like anybody? If so, throw it in the chat if that sounds like something that you've ever thought about. Every week I hear the same thing. Hey, Coach C, I think I have imposter syndrome. And if you would have asked me over a year ago, the thing that I was constantly saying was like, yes, imposter syndrome. Yes, that's imposter syndrome. Oh, yep, that's imposter syndrome. That's imposter syndrome. But as I've gotten older, I ask a different question now. What if you don't have imposter syndrome? What if you just missed a turn? Because missing a turn doesn't mean you're lost. It just means it's time to recalculate. So I just want to say, hey, 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 road trippers. If this is your welcome to actually, I'm thinking about my old thing I used to do. Welcome to our very first weekly pit stop. If you were here last week, we had technical difficulties. I was in the country, time zones were different, and I'm back on the West Coast. And so if you were here last week, thank you for joining me again live this week. If you are here, tell me where you're joining from. If you're catching the replay, go ahead and drop the replay because I still want to hear from you. And because this is our very first time officially pulling up into a weekly pit stop, I want to say, hey, I'm Coach C, and around here, I serve as your human GPS because getting promoted doesn't come with a map. I don't tell you who to become. I help you figure out where you are, where you're trying to go, and how to get there without taking everybody else's route. Because that's a lot of times what first time leaders end up doing. And so I am here every single Thursday. We are going to be pulling over, checking the dashboard, and having those leadership conversations that nobody prepared us for after we get promoted. Not the conversations about, oh, here's leadership skills. Oh, here's about feedback. Hey, this is how you show up confident. No, we are having conversations about becoming the leader your promotion is asking you to become. So let's get into this whole thing. I'm super excited. I want to I want to really challenge you all to think about a different perspective. What if what we've been calling all along isn't really imposter syndrome? What if your title arrived before your identity had time to catch up? Just want you to think about that. What if your title arrived before your identity had time to catch up? The more and more that I have conversations with first time leaders, the more and more that I coach first time leaders, the more I realize I don't really think it's imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome doesn't explain every single thing. Although we sit here and try to say, like I said earlier, is that we try to stamp it and say that that's what it is. I think it's something else. Something else is truly happening. I think what a lot of us experience is what I like to call identity disruption. And I know a lot of people don't even know what that is, so let me go ahead and explain it. Identity disruption basically is what happens when your external world changes faster than your internal one. Say that again. Your external world is changing faster than your internal one is. Your title changes, your responsibility changes, the way people see you changes, but what haven't had time, or let me say it this way, you haven't had time to see yourself differently yet. A lot of times when we get these promotions, it's the next day and you go from being a regular employee to an employee, to a leader. You didn't change, your title did. So now every decision that you may have, it feels heavier. And to be honest, when it comes to leadership, it's decision making every single day. That's another topic for a different day. But the decisions, they feel a little bit heavier. You find yourself maybe overthinking the emails, you replay meetings in your head on your drive home. You wonder, did you say too much? Or did I not say enough? You start questioning like your different instincts, those same instincts that you had. Let's just talk about that for a second. You start questioning instincts that you had that got you promoted in the first place. Think about it. Before you had that leader title, whether it's a lead, a supervisor, a manager, whatever your first title is in a leadership, those instincts that you had when it came to assisting customer, to problem solving and figuring out which route to go, you trusted your instincts and it came out a great result. Or it may have came out with them getting angry. Or you bring in your boss at the time, hey, this is an idea that I have, that I believe that this is where a gap is, and you provided a resolution, which is what puts you above your peers. So when you start questioning those instincts that got you promoted in the first place, you stop asking, did I do a good job? You actually start asking, do I even belong here? Am I even cut out for this? I hear that so much in my consultations and in my client meetings, is like the feeling of not even belonging or even deserving of the role. And that's the difference. Imposter syndrome tells us that you're a fraud. Identity disruption says you're becoming. Because imposter syndrome is basically sitting there saying that, hey, you don't know what you're doing. Hey, why are you doing it that way? But it's not that. Your identity got disrupted because you're no longer just a regular employee. You're now leading people. One keeps you stuck. The other reminds you that you're in transition. Two completely different things. I can't see if anybody, do I have my comments on? I'll go back to the comments, and this is going to be engaging. This is my first one, trying to navigate both of them. So if you have a comment, I definitely will go back in and talk about that. But just throw them in the comments as I'm talking so I can go back, whatever that thought that you're having, because this is what this is for us to really sit here and have this type of conversations that we're not having. The reason why I call this identity disruption is because your girl has lived it. I still remember walking into my very first meeting years ago. I walked into that very first meeting years ago, and I know I did the work. Before I even got the official title, I had put a curriculum together. We didn't necessarily have any type of outlined coaching or outlined actual trainings for when new employees came in for onboarding and everything like that. I put all that stuff together. Didn't even know what I was doing. Just was like, I wish I had this whenever I started. Put it together, train the trainer, train my peers, train internationally. Your girl was traveling both here in the statewide, but also too internationally across the border here. And I knew my numbers. I knew at that point, I knew my team when it came to my very first team meeting, or sorry, my very first leadership meeting that I ever was a part of. I had earned, I had earned that promotion. But if I'm honest, I spent more time worrying about sounding like a leader than actual leading. I remember sitting there thinking, okay, girl, don't say anything dumb right now. Don't say anything stupid. Like, don't say it. I hope nobody asks me something that I don't know. Maybe I should just listen today. Have any of y'all ever been there? Go ahead and throw it in the chat for me. If you've ever been in that meeting or had those thoughts or whatever thought that you had, go ahead and throw it in the chat for me. I want to see. Mm-hmm. Well, if you're watching this replay, I still want you to throw it in the chat. I don't see anything in the chat right now. But I spent so much time, like I said, sounding like trying to pretend that I was a leader at that point in time. And so the crazy part is I wasn't unqualified. I had already proven that I could do the work. I got promoted. That's why they promote me. That's why they promoted you. The work wasn't the problem. The role was new. The expectations were new. The pressure was new. The version of Candace that got promoted, yeah, she hadn't fully become the version of Candace leadership was asking her to become. And it's not that I was broken. I wasn't a fraud. I was just experiencing identity disruption. And I wish somebody would have told me that, because I would have stopped trying to fix myself and started giving myself permission to grow. I say this to you, stop trying to fix yourself. Start giving yourself permission to grow. Because I say this all the time when it comes to being a leader. The first person that you should lead ever in your life should be you. If you can't lead yourself, how do you expect to lead somebody else? Just think about it for a second. Think about driving for a second. If you've been driving the same little car for years, and tomorrow I'm like, hey girl, here are keys to a full-size EV, electric vehicle. Are you suddenly a bad driver? No, you're still a driver, but everything feels different. The mirrors feel different. The blind spots are different. The parking feels different. Turning feels different. Backing up feels different. And let's be real, you probably got that backup camera that now you don't have to do one of these anymore. All you got to do is just look right here. Whatever it is, but it feels different. The vehicle changed, not the driver's ability. You are the driver. Nothing has changed outside of your title. And I think that's exactly what happens after a promotion. Yesterday, you had a responsibility. You were only responsible for your work. Now, you're responsible for your team's work. Today, you're responsible for people. Yesterday, you were responsible, or you solved problems. Let's just talk about that. Yesterday, you solved the problem. Today, you're helping people solve their problems. I had here recently, I was just thinking, even with that in itself, problem solving looks different across different generations. And I remember, like, here recently, like, one of my team members, because I am still in leadership, so I'm walking this out too. I remember a team member asking me like a basic question about, hey, this item is broken. Should I throw it away? In my head, I'm like, yes, you should throw it away. But my response was, hey, can we still use it? They were like, no. So I think I should throw it away. So that's a problem that you probably would have solved on your own. But today you're helping them solve problems, even problems like that. Yesterday's success for you was measured by your performance. Today it's measured by your team performance. That's a different vehicle that I'm talking about. That's a different road that you're traveling right now. And if nobody ever taught you how to drive it, how you gonna know? Like, how are you going to know what to do if no one has ever told you how to drive it? Of course it's going to feel unfamiliar, but unfamiliar doesn't mean unqualified. Just because the road is unfamiliar doesn't mean you're unqualified to drive it. And so for me, this is why I sit here and talk about how, and I admit, I was really on the imposter syndrome train a year and a half ago. I was really on it because I had, if I'm honest, I'm like, oh yes. When I started hearing the whole phrase about what imposter syndrome was and this and that, I was like, yes, everybody has it. Oh yes, yes, everybody's an imposter. Like everybody goes through this, and I don't necessarily 100% believe that it doesn't exist. I just think that we give it more credit than what it really is. Because what I believe is the biggest gap isn't between your title and your talent, it's between your title and your identity. hmm Think about that. Your title and your talent versus your title and your identity. It's two different things. Most leadership training is going to teach you what to do. For me, I particularly think about helping you become who you are in the role it's asking you to be. Because when you know who you are, feedback becomes information instead of a rejection. Challenges become opportunities instead of proof you don't belong. Those difficult challenges or those difficult conversations that you have become opportunities to lead instead of a reason to hide. But you got to know who you are. I keep hitting this mic here. I hope you guys can hear me. But you got to know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, you will allow whoever to come in and to do whatever and put you in the box of where they feel. I remember I had this leader, and I'm not sitting there saying that this happens overnight. It took me years. I would sit there and say, I started my whole journey when I was 33. I'm 41 now. And that's 8 years. And I was in my 30s starting to figure out like who I was. And a part of that step was me going to understand the other part of me, which was my dad's side of the family. And I talk about this a lot. I won't really go into it here. However, that was a huge part of my identity that I had put into this box and was like, let me just hide it over here. I can still be who I am. But if you don't know who you are, you don't know how to lead people. Somebody could come in here and your boss can come in and say, hey, I think that you're a very great speaker. Or, hey, I think you're a very great problem solver. I'm going to put you on this project. Oh, I think you're very good with numbers. I'm gonna have you do this report. Like they can come in and basically form you into who they think that they want you to be or who they feel that you are if you don't know yourself. And so my goal isn't to change who you are. It's to help you. It's to help your identity catch up to the opportunity you've already earned. You earned the opportunity to become a leader. You've earned that opportunity to become that lead. You've earned that opportunity to become that advisor. You've earned that opportunity to become that manager. Girl, you earned it. And bro, if you're watching it, you earned it too, sir. You earned that opportunity. And so that's the part that we have to really start thinking about when it comes to it. Your skills teach you how to lead. Identity determines who shows up while you're leading. Your skills got you there. That's why they felt you were the right candidate for the role, the right person to come in, the person that maybe challenged, status quo of what they were missing, whatever it is, whatever the missing piece, they felt that you were it. But your identity determines who shows up while you're leading. And we don't talk about that enough. So I don't ever want us to leave a weekly pit stop with information in no direction. No, that's not how I roll. I don't want you to ever feel like, dang, that was really good. This was very motivating. And now tomorrow comes, it's Friday and I'm back to square one, or it's Monday and I'm like still feeling. No, I don't ever want you to leave a weekly pit stop with information in no direction. So before we get back on the road, it's time for your route check. So a route check is basically what it is. We checking your route. You have been driving on this route since 2 weeks ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. You have been driving on this road for however many years, months, weeks you have been into this first leadership role. It's time for us to check your route. Every week, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you with one question. Not 10, not 20, not, hey, go to your journal, write this down, journal this. Hey, here's a takeaway. I want you to go. No, 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 no. I want to just leave you with one question, and I want you just to think about it. I want you to think about it from now until next week, whenever we meet again, because one honest answer can change the direction of your entire week. One, just being honest, and you have to be honest with yourself. I'm all about, girl, be honest with yourself. If you can't be honest with nobody else, be honest with yourself, because that's the only way that you're going to grow. For this week, here's your route check. Where did you, let me say that again. Where did you mistake unfamiliar for unqualified this week? I'll let y'all marinate on that. Where did you mistake unfamiliar for unqualified this week? Was it a difficult conversation that you had to give for the very first time and it went left with one of your team members? They felt like you were targeting them. They felt like you were pointing them out. They took whatever you said out of context, and now you feel like, dang, was I even qualified to have that conversation? Or was it your boss giving you a task that you were unfamiliar with, but you ended up saying yes? Because a lot of first time leaders do that, is that you feel like you got to say yes to everything. That's why identity is so important for you to understand who you are. Before the title, you got to understand who you are and where your strengths are, where your challenges are, where you can grow at. Like, you have to understand all of those. However, if you don't, so that goes back to the question, your boss just gave you a task and you said, yes, I'll do it. But you don't know what you're doing. And now, because you don't know what you're doing, you don't ask for help. You spend hours trying to figure it out on your own. You don't go to you don't use your resources. And your resources, I don't necessarily mean like going into your whatever your SOPs are that you may have or anything like that. I'm talking about your resources as far as the person that whoever has done it before, your resources, a mentor that you could go to. Like, you don't utilize your resources. And so you are now, day one is over and it's due in tomorrow, and you're trying to figure it out. But you now feel unqualified this week, whatever it is. So my question again, because I know I'm babbling and giving you different situations, but I want you to think about your situation. Where did you mistake unfamiliar for unqualified this week? I want you to really think about it from now until next week. Was it a meeting, a conversation, an email you kept rewriting, a decision you avoided? Maybe it's something that you assume you weren't ready for when you really were. You were just driving a road you've never driven before. Think about that. Where was a place this week Did you assume you weren't really ready for it and you're really just driving a road you've never driven before? Yeah. Those are things that I constantly sit here and I talk about it with the first time leaders that I talk to, particularly the women, um, is that when it comes to it, you have to give yourself, you have to release that pressure. And I'm saying that because that's who I was too. I put so much pressure on myself to doing it right, saying it right, making sure that I didn't appear to be like I didn't know what I was doing, when in reality, the only person that was thinking that was myself. So here's what I want you to do after you think about that question. When did you notice yourself saying? When did you notice yourself saying, I don't know if I can do this? You may not have said it out loud, you may have said it, had that thought, but as you're thinking about that situation, when was it that you thought or you were saying to yourself, I don't know if I can do this? I want you to replace it with the one question: am I unqualified, or is this just unfamiliar? That one question, like I said earlier, it changes everything, because unfamiliar roads become familiar the more you drive them. Like I said earlier, I say this all the time: uncomfortable is uncomfortable before it becomes comfortable. Don't confuse unfamiliar with unqualified. It's not the same. Being uncomfortable in what you're doing, yes, it's going to feel uncomfortable for some time. And it's going to feel uncomfortable until you understand that, hey, you know what? I deserve this. And no, I don't know what I'm doing in this XYZ situation. However, it's okay. This is me telling you right now, it's okay. So don't confuse uncomfortable with unqualified. All right. I know this is quicker than the 30 minutes. I just put that on there. Like we said, I blocked y'all's calendar out for the full 30 minutes. Sometimes it's going to 30, sometimes it's going to go 45. It depends on how interactive you all are with me throughout this. But I wanted to do this whole weekly check, this weekly pit stop, because I am over the fact of first time leaders feeling that they don't know what they're doing. I'm overseeing the articles that says within 18 months, first time leaders are quitting. 60% of them don't feel like they get the training that they actually need to do the job. And it's because we're just a lot of leadership coaching and trainings and company trainings, they push so much of, hey, here's the leadership skills. Hey, here's your style. Hey, here, hey. But if the person don't know who they are ever outside of their title, how is any of that going to be beneficial? So that's why we are doing these weekly pit stops where we are stopping. So girl, until next Thursday, keep your hands on the wheel, your eyes on the road, and don't be afraid to recalculate. I'm Coach C, your human GPS. And like I say all the time, when there's no gap, there are no limits. It's just leadership our way. All right, y'all. Till next week. Bye.